Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the resource management meeting to order for Wednesday afternoon. And we'll start off the afternoon by reciting the pledge. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm Dave Decker. I'm the chair of the Resource Management Committee. And our first item of business is the roll call.
Mr. Decker?
Here.
Mr. Graves? Mr. Barnes?
Present.
Mr. Dibble?
Here.
Mr. Fanton?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Crandall? 6 members present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Megan. Next item is we have minutes from the June 16th meeting, and we need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Dibble. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I need to vote for the minutes, please. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's carried. Next item of business on the agenda is Scott Torrey, Soil and Water Conservation Executive Director. Welcome, Scott.
All right, you have my report in there. We've been focusing on a lot of grant writing. Several of those have been due lately. And to add to that report, we've also been following up with a lot of stream issues. With the rainfall we've gotten here in July, we've had a lot of calls about that, so we've been following up with that. We've also been meeting with the village of Wellsville and about the flooding on Williams Avenue and trying to come up with some solutions that may ease that. That's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Any other towns having issues with the flooding? I know in Cuba, where I live, we had 8.6 inches of rain so far in the month of July.
We haven't, typical town calls, nothing, from this last week and anything we've got called about yet.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much what we've been working on.
Okay. And can you update us on your request for the Bennett lot timber?
So we had the opening this morning at 11 o'clock. We had 5 forestry firms interested that looked at it and requested more information, and we did not receive any bids.
Okay.
The help with the county administrator's office, there's a letter that's been drafted and sent to you this afternoon requesting we delay that, rebidding that. There is a property dispute that a neighbor landowner is currently contesting a survey that was performed up there, so we felt it'd be good to hold off until that's figured out.
Okay. All right, you'll update us then if
Yes.
that goes out to bid again.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
do you still plan on doing it this year?
I hope so, because the ash borer is up there and the trees are still good now, but I don't want to delay it too long.
Any idea how old that survey is?
I don't think a survey was ever done of the properties up there, and then the neighboring landowner, I guess, had one done last year, I think it was, maybe 2019. And there was a discrepancy in what both landowners thought they owned, and I guess they were contesting the survey. Because the survey was actually in the county's favor.
The adjacent landowner had a survey done on their own property and then found out what they thought they owned, according to the survey, was property the county owned. And they're not happy with the results of that survey, and they would like to talk to the county about that now boundary line that has been discovered that's probably in the county's favor of owning more property. But I think that's something we've been talking to the attorney for that landowner, and we'll continue on. So when we bid it, we did not include the property that was in dispute. If we're going to rebid it, it might be to our benefit to include the disputed property if it is ours.
Okay, one last question. When you select timber to put out to bid, do you give a certain buffer to the boundary lines or no?
Yeah, we stay back from the boundary lines that we know, so we're not cutting trees that may be conflicting. I'm not sure what distance we're staying back.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Healy?
Thank you, Chairman Decker. Scott, can you give us any idea of what kind of damage we might be having to our forest from the gypsy moth infestation that's going on right now?
I can get back to you on that. I'm not aware of any long-term effects of those right now.
Okay, and we're not taking any preventative measures at all?
I'm not sure if there's any we can take that would be economically feasible.
Okay.
I can get back to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott? Thank you very much. Mr. Dibble?
Just wondering on the lot off on the hillside, maybe that whoever we get to the Bennett lot might want to do that one too. We'll see.
We can look at it. I know some of the issues was the terrain up there,
Yeah.
and it's very steep off that side, and I'm not sure if they can do it.
Gotcha.
We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Brian Perkins, Youth Bureau Director. Hi, Brian.
Hello there. Thank you for having me in tonight. You have my report. I will update the very top item on there, the funding allocations. Actually, Monday afternoon, so we're there. 2021 allotments have been given, so that came in at 51,000.
Turn on the microphone.
Oh, it's not on.
Scott's fault. So update the top line there, the funding allocations. Monday, as I was at the fair, the email came through that there was that we did get the allotments for the year for 2021, and we got $51,415. Last year's allocation was $46,000, so it did go back up a little bit for us. I haven't really been able to get into it. I've been out at the fair yesterday and then again this morning, so probably next week I'll start breaking that out to the different programs, and we should be totally set with all of those. The other thing I'll mention is the next one down there, for the PPAC meeting that we had yesterday. They did go through the risk and protective survey that they do a little bit, just kind of the initial findings that they've had in it. It was an interesting one they were looking forward to getting because they did the survey this spring, early in the spring, so they were wondering what the impact of the pandemic and was going to have on kids and how it would affect them. The general findings of it were that some of the behaviors were actually down as far as some of the smoking and drinking that they were seeing in the younger kids because they weren't able to get together. They weren't out as much. So the frequency of it at least was down. But for some, the risk factors that would lead to those things was still at, or some of them had actually stepped up a little bit. You know, I think we've heard a lot about for all of this home time with the family was good for a lot of families, but there's definitely families out there that it wasn't. There's kids out there that aren't in homes that are as supportive as others, and for those kids, some of those risk factors were just multiplied during the pandemic. So. Other than that, I mentioned the Youth Council still looking for an individual to step on for Allegheny County. I've got a couple leads I've got to reach out to and see if I can get one of them to jump on it. And then bike safety wrapped up and it went well, other than I am going next week to a safety day for the summer rec program in Andover. They wanted me to come. So that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? Deb?
So it really can be any student from Allegheny County under the age of 21. So college students are eligible. The target was kind of high school because then they can get them in. They can be in the program for a few years before we'd lose them. So even if it was a high school senior, then they'd graduate. But if they were still going to school in the area, And I think especially after the last year, they were doing a lot of this virtually anyway. You know, they're Zooming for these meetings. They don't have to get together. There will be one big conference that they'll do in Albany towards the end of this. I think they're scheduled for next February, March, somewhere in there. So we're basically at the point where I was told, if you can find someone that wants to do it, we'll help make sure that they get in.
How many?
It can go all the way down to 12, actually. So there's a pretty wide range of what they've got to get in there. The application process for it was still as cumbersome as it was last year. There was just a lot to it. So I definitely had heard from some kids that had looked into it, but got onto the website, into the portal, and was like, well, this is a lot they're wanting me to put in. And they asked for them about the same time that, you know, high school seniors are putting in for scholarships and things like that. So they're already doing a whole lot of this other stuff, you know, and juniors are writing applications to colleges and doing all of that. They don't want to do one more thing. So that was kind of, I think, the hang up for a few of them I know that I had talked to. But there is still the opportunity there. We do want to get somebody involved, and hopefully we can do that soon.
Brian, is there any possibility that if you got someone in late according to their age bracket, that they could fill out their term even though they've passed the age of 21?
Trying to remember what they were saying with it. So that it's really kind of, it's one of the 1 year term things where they'll roll you over each year as long as you can keep going. So, I mean, the only thing would really happen probably if somebody who was 20 then turned 21, they probably would ask us to replace them the next year.
Okay.
But
all right. Any other questions for Brian? Brian, is there anything else that you'd like to add today?
not that I can think of.
How's the turnout been at the booth?
The traffic safety board booth has been pretty good. It's been going well. I had to just run over there real quick this morning, or right around noon, make sure it got going, and get back here for you all. I didn't want to miss this. I heard we were back in a
All right.
normal formation.
If there's no more questions for Brian, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Next up, we have Laura Hunsberger, Cooperative Extension.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Good
Hi.
afternoon. We've got your monthly report.
Yep.
Is there anything that you'd like to highlight?
Well, it's fair. Tonight is the livestock auction. If anybody needs to stock their freezers, get there about 6 o'clock. The numbers are a little bit down from previous years, but if anybody needs any assistance bidding or any of that, just holler and we can hook you up with somebody that can walk you through the process. Otherwise, things are going well. We haven't been, this isn't wood, but haven't been rained out just yet. So they,
The rain seemed to go north of us last night.
yeah, last night. So hopeful.
Are there any questions for Laura on her monthly report?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Brooke.
just wondering how 4-H participation has been at the fair this year compared to years past.
It has been down. So because we only had 6 weeks to prepare for fair as opposed to being able to start back in January, a lot of the activities that we normally had planned. So we had a clothing review, but it was virtual, where normally it's held at the Angelica Grange, and everything that all the kids had made, all the clothes that they were sporting at that event, then get entered as a fair item. So if you go up to the youth building, you can definitely tell that there's a bit more of an echo, but we have a junior master gardener program that's starting up. So Jeremy is up there with activities for kids, and we also have a hydroponic grow tower, the same one that we have in the schools right now, if people want to see what that is. So if the participation and the number of things are down, or entries are down, but we're trying to make up for that with other events and activities. Yep.
I saw in here one place, there's a robot.
We didn't come in time.
Okay.
Yeah, we were hopeful.
All right.
It's a little over my head.
Any other questions for Laura? Mr. Dibble?
Any progress on your house?
If I say yes, then I would be like jinxing myself. So we're optimistically hopeful that
Thank
we
you.
have a meeting coming up. So keep your fingers crossed.
Yep.
I'll tell you when you can, start saying prayers and things like that.
Any other questions for Laura? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any old business to come before the committee today? Any new business? Anything for the good of the order? Adjournment is made by motion by Mr. Fenton, second by Brooke Harris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.